guys, and welcome back to another episode of Federico Talks Watches. Today is another Q&A, where I put a picture up on my Instagram and you guys asked the questions. So thanks for everybody for participating. And we're going to cover everything from vintage watches, to world time watches, to how to become a watch dealer, to Tudor versus Rolex, stuff like that. Before we get started, of course, customary wristwatch check. Today I'm wearing my trusty PAM 111 on the black rubber strap. What can I say, man? I love this. People were surprised I didn't keep it in my Never Sell Watches episode, but it was pretty close. I really, really love this thing. And also, let me apologize if you guys hear some faint construction noise in the background. We're still getting hurricane damage repaired here in South Florida, and they're working basically right outside my window. And of course, also, don't forget to check out Del Rey Watch Supply. That's delraywatch.com. I'm getting a pretty interesting Rolex sports model that I'm sure someone's going to want to snap up. It isn't live yet, but it'll be on the site tomorrow. Anyway, guys, let's get right into the Q&A. Oh, and if you guys see me staring this way, I'm just reading the questions off my screen. So let's get started. BM Duncan 95 says, what is your favorite GMT or world time watch? Well, buddy, I've got a few of them. I mean, I love the Patek Philippe World Timer, the new one. I love the Rolex GMT Master with the Pepsi bezel. But right now, for the money, I'm kind of obsessed with the Montblanc Orbis Terrarum. It's got that beautiful dial with the world map on it, quick change for the world time with a button on the side, and it looks like $1 million. These could be had under $4,000, and you know what? For the price, they can't be beat. Right now, that's the world time / GMT watch I'm obsessed with. Watch UC says, are vintage watches, particularly chronographs, a bubble or they continue to rise in price considering their scarcity? Well, Watch UC, here's the thing. They're not scarce, so it's a complete bubble. I think iconic chronos like the Speedmasters, the Daytonas, the Universal Geneves, stuff like that is going to continue rising in value because those, while they're not particularly scarce, they're certainly not making any more. But they were millions, if not tens of millions, of chronos out there. And unfortunately, since these iconic chronos are raising in price, all the low-rent stuff is now ridiculously priced as well. Waltham chronos for $2,000 to $3,000, Enicar chronos $2,000 to $3,000, Leonidas, Zodiac. All of that stuff. I mean, it's not bad, it's not garbage, but is it worth $3,000 to $4,000? Absolutely not. Not a chance. I don't know if it's a bubble or not, but I can tell you this. Is it worth it? No. Stay away. Get a modern watch if you're going to be spending that money. And you know what? If you do kind of scrape around, you can still get vintage like Chronograph Suisse under $1,000. But honestly, they're not that scarce. I do think it is a little bit of a bubble, but the big names are definitely going to continue to rise. Great White Explorer. Great handle, by the way. Do you think Omega's played out the Speedy Pro Moon watch? Do you think the Omega's played out the Speedy Pro Moon watch, and should they try to develop a new flagship? Well, Great White Explorer, I do think it is a little played out. There's too many limited editions. There's too many versions. I remember when the Speedy Tuesday came out, it was the hottest thing, but no one but scalpers bought it. Because you know what? When they were finally released 3 days ago, I got offered 4 of them. 4 people trying to sell me a Speedy Tuesday within a week. And when they finally hit the market, the first ones went for $9,000, but the price quickly crumbled below $6,000 because people are speculating. The Speedy is a great watch, but there's too many variations of it. And Omega did try to make a new flagship. It was the Omega Globemaster, but unfortunately, no one bought the damn thing. Great watch, great movement with the Meta certification. They were trying to kind of compete with the Datejust, but you know what? Ultimately, it was a massive flop. Only because it had such big expectations from Omega. The watch didn't sell terribly, but it was supposed to be their big new thing. And you know what? Nobody bought them considering the numbers they were expecting to sell. So yeah, I do think they need to come up with a new flagship model or something to kind of throw into the lineup. And they've certainly been trying, but they haven't been successful yet. TYTYJ. Oh, this is Tyler. Actually, Tyler, I hope you're enjoying the turnograph. He says, Fed, what sort of future issues could someone face with a vintage dress watch? Patina is subjectively a beautiful thing, but will patina ever become a detriment and potentially become degradation? Lastly, is it advisable to wear a high-end dress piece every day? Wow, Tyler, this is a complex question. What are some future issues? Well, first of all, there's degradation. Patina can degrade. It's going to take some time, but depending on the conditions that you do wear it, it could certainly degrade. Then what other issues? Well, there's going to be some service issues. Can you get parts? How much is it going to cost to service? Will you find a watchmaker who won't butcher the damn thing? Because you have no idea how many vintage watches I've seen that are complete butcher jobs. And then, of course, they just need more care than a modern watch. You should get the seals resealed every year. Probably service intervals are no longer 5 to 7 years. It's probably every couple of years. Those are the problems. It's going to cost a little bit more money to maintain. It will keep degrading over time. But vintage watches are fantastic. Would I wear one every day? Probably not. I probably wouldn't. They're not as durable. They're not as water resistant. I tend to baby my vintage watches, and this coming from a guy who doesn't baby watches at all. But yeah, those are kind of the issues. It's old technology. It's like a beautiful classic car with a carburetor. It's a great looking thing. It's a lot of fun. But do you want to deal with it every day? Personally, I don't think so. Mr. James Duffy. When I resell watches, I base my margin on my acquisition cost instead of market value. Is this why I'm so poor and hungry? Absolutely. Because you shouldn't base your margin on acquisition value. You should base acquisition value on market value and then base your margin off of that. So really, when you're buying a watch to resell it, you got to think, well, how much do they sell for right now? If they sell for $3,000 and you bought it for $4,000 and you're going to sell it for $5,000, obviously you're going to lose because no one's going to buy your watch. You need to base your acquisition value on market value. Buy below market, easier said than done, I know that, guys, but buy below market to then adjust your margin accordingly. I'm a dealer, I do this all the time, and trust me, guys, it really is not that easy. Chris AMZ. What are your opinions on the brand Audemars Piguet? You talk about a lot of luxury watch brands, but I never really heard your thoughts on AP. Love the videos, Fed. Chris, thanks so much, man. What do I think about AP? Well, there's a reason I don't talk about them that much. I think they're a great watch. They make some fantastic movements. They've got a great history. They're in the Holy Trinity, for Christ's sake. But they're a one-trick pony. It's all about Royal Oak and, to a lesser extent, Royal Oak Offshore. No one ever bought their Edward Piguet line, which is now discontinued. No one ever bought the Jules Audemars line, which can be had for 35, 40 cents on the dollar. Nobody bought the Millenary. They're all about the Royal Oak. And as some guy who thinks the Royal Oak is cool, but I don't love it, why should I talk about AP? There's nothing to talk about, unfortunately. It's an underappreciated brand. No, it's not an underappreciated brand. The brand is appreciated just fine. They make a lot of underappreciated pieces, and no one gives a crap about anything that's not the Royal Oak. And unfortunately, just like Omega, AP is milking that. They release too many Royal Oak and Royal Oak Offshore limited editions. They should focus on creating something a little bit more fresh. But that's my opinion in a nutshell. Iacono Nicolas. Carissimo Federico. Oh, we have an Italian. What, in your opinion, is the most challenging part of starting up your own watch business? What were the effects on your passion for horology? Saluti da Napoli. Well, Nicolas, da un napoletano un altro, grazie mille. From one Neapolitan to another, thanks so much for asking the question. What's the hardest part? Well, man, it really hasn't been easy. I mean, I'm working 18 hours a day. I'm tired as a dog. I barely have time to shoot videos. But the hardest part would probably be acquisition, stock. It's really hard to buy watches at a low enough price to sell them and make a profit. I mean, it's really not that easy. There's so many platforms out there, eBay, the forums, everybody's looking for a crazy deal. And honestly, the margins just aren't there. I mean, on a watch, you're lucky to make more than 3, 4, $500, and once you consider shipping, credit card fees, stuff like that. So it's a little bit of a grind, but I love it. It's what I love to do. I've been in sales my entire life, so I'm good at it. And of course, I've been in watches my entire career, so I really do like it. What do I think? Has it affected my passion? A little bit. I mean, before I was shooting YouTube videos and consulting, I would work 8, 9 hours a day. It was fine. But right now, my life is 18 hours a day, all about watches. And when my day is over, I want to take off my watch, and I don't want to think about watches anymore. So while my passion hasn't degraded, it's just a big blast of watches all the time. And it gets hard because that passion is putting food on my table. It's paying my rent. So I certainly hope I don't lose that passion. And right now I don't think I'm in danger of it. But I'm certainly surrounded by horology almost 24/7. And sometimes it can get a little bit tiring if I have to be 100% frank with you. And now we have a question from another kind of blue. Is there still value in vintage Tudor, particularly in day-date models? Well, man, to be honest with you, I think they're so overplayed. I mean, is there value in vintage Tudor? Sure. 5, 6 years ago in the vintage Tudor subs, they doubled in value. Right now, I think the vintage Tudor Tigers or the big blocks, those can still be had for a decent price. But the day dates and the Datejusts were the ugly ducklings of the Tudor line. And unfortunately, right now, people are asking $1,800, $2,000, $2,500 for a watch that honestly 10 years ago was $650. I think a lot of people settle for the Tudor day dates because it's what they can afford, and they want to go in the Tudor day date, and they want to get into the Tudor market. Now, I could be wrong. I mean, I think they are a cool watch. Do I think there's still value in them? Well, honestly, value can only really go up at this point because it's discontinued. But personally, I don't think they're worth it. It's an ETA 2836 with a day date. It's a high quality watch, but it's never going to be the next big skyrocketing watch in Tudor's vintage lineup. I think if you can pick one up under $1,300, $1,400, do it, but don't pay these modern asking prices. Anyway, guys, I hope you found the Q&A useful. I'm going to try and do one of these once a month, more or less, so subscribe to my Instagram. That way you can see the notification. And please don't forget to give this video 2 thumbs up. That way, that way nothing. It just really helps the channel. And subscribe. That way you don't miss any more content. And of course, check out Del Rey Watch Supply, my website where I sell some cool pre-owned watches. A link in the description below. Guys, thank you so much for watching another episode of Federico Talks Watches, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care.